I hear a lot today that meetings are bad and that meetings are a waste of time, and I just don't believe that. For me, you have to embed a rhythm of weekly, monthly, quarterly meetings into your business to bring focus and alignment and provide an opportunity to solve problems more quickly and ultimately save time.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nuske, and you know what? It's great to be back with you today. On the line, I have Shane Spiers with me. How are you, Shane?
I'm brilliant. Yeah, looking forward to it, Rick.
So you're located in the UK?
I am, yeah. I'm in Bath in the UK, which is about 2 hours west of London. Although you can probably tell from the accent, I grew up a bit further south than here, originally from New Zealand.
So let me guess, it's wet and windy where you are?
No, it isn't actually. We've had a brilliant summer, although we're coming to the end of it here. But it's quite mild actually.
Yeah, look, I'm looking at your bio with Summit, and it's very exciting. I'd love to jump into that in a minute, but just could you, if you don't mind, share us a little bit about yourself with our audience, what you do outside of work and what you enjoy.
Yeah, so as I said, so I live in Bath in UK.
Yep.
I live with my English wife and two children and my chocolate Labrador dog. As a New Zealander, I love my rugby and other outdoor pursuits like skiing and shooting and fly fishing and all those sorts of things.
Wonderful.
So being in Bath, we've got it's a lovely city here, but it's also close to the outdoors and country and all that sort of stuff. So I'm able to get away and out on the weekends and things like that. So yeah.
That's wonderful. I'd love to, if we can, start deep diving, and I'll tell everybody first what we're going to be talking about today, Shane. We're going to be looking at cultivating a growth culture. We're going to be looking at things like scaling, and finally, last but not least, developing a leadership culture within the business. So, how did this all come about for you, Shane? The Summit Scale business.
So I call myself a business scaling strategist, and my business track record has been dominated by, I suppose, leading and scaling in 7, 8, and 9 figure rapid growth companies. My roles have included, I was a CEO of a 25 million business providing services to central and local government, and MD of a 240 million business unit responsible for leading over 1,000 people and 135 sites in 23 cities. But one of my greatest successes was included being part of a leadership team that grew a real estate business 2,000% from SME to FTSE 250 in 8 years. And I think I've just over the years developed a set of skills and built on, I suppose, timeless business fundamentals, as well as a toolkit that my ideal clients now are high six, seven-figure entrepreneurs who've become stuck or run out of ideas to take their business to the next level of growth. And I recognise just how many business owners are stuck. In the UK, US, 96% of businesses don't actually make £1 million, million revenue, and only 4% of firms are reaching that million, and only 10% of those make it to 10 million. That's 0.4% of businesses, and I think that's a real shame. And I want to help more business owners break through that barrier, because I think that actually brings more personal freedom and also brings a lot more choice over exit and those sorts of things. So so that's where it started in my kind of track record of high growth companies, and now wanting to just help more the entrepreneurs break through that ceiling, if you like, and become unstuck.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you for sharing that with us. There's lots going on in the world of leadership. You see some leaders who demonstrate some questionable behaviour. I saw something recently where a CEO was on a live stream and they did something that the guests didn't necessarily agree with. And thinking about those sorts of environments where somebody's exposed to the public eye so much, how important is it for a leader to do the right things, and what does that entail?
Well, as a leader in a business, you've got a big owl on your head all the time. You're the leader. People are looking to you to how you behave and how you behave around here, and that's what sets the behaviour for everyone else. And that's so important, as we'll come on to in terms of talking about how you drive a growth culture and those sorts of things. But the way that a leader demonstrates themselves and how they behave is what drives the culture of a business.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
So my own story started when I graduated uni with a property valuation degree and went to work for a large real estate company. And by the time I was 28, I was working in another country in a fast-growing business, and I was given my first significant leadership role of managing a large team. And at the time, I was excited yet apprehensive, as I trained as a property professional, but I hadn't trained for management or leadership. And I'd experienced some great bosses in the early part of my career, but more often than not, I'd experienced some really bad ones. And so I didn't want to mess it up. And it felt like a sink or swim moment. And there wasn't any management or leadership training on offer. So, I set about learning all I could and studying and observing others. And by the time I was 35, I joined another fast-growing and young company and carving a real niche in its sector. And I was leading a large team of people spread across many sites and cities. And although I was highly competent technically at doing my job, like a lot of my peers and colleagues, the rapid growth of the business was becoming painful, and the business was becoming very exposed. And what the conclusion I came to, in a small, fast-growing entrepreneurial business, there are a few key factors that have significant impact on the performance and growth of business, mostly an ability to sell and the financial factors like access to capital and cash flow. But as a business moves from entrepreneurial to a managed growth stage, the effectiveness of the leadership becomes much more obvious in a way that management and entrepreneurial ways of I believe can start to hinder a business rather than advance it. So for a lot of entrepreneurs, I think it's the next step's not for them. They enjoy startups and build-ups and making stuff happen, but the complexity of managing an organization and getting stuff done through lots of people is just not for them. So some sell up and start new ventures, some become stuck and kind of remain stuck there for periods, and others reach out for help and find ways to develop strategies and capabilities to scale and push through. And at the end of the day, as I learned, if you want to grow a 7, 8 and 9-figure business, you have to develop some fundamental capabilities in certain areas. The ability to create clear vision, set strategy, and align people onto the same page in the same direction, and then the ability to really embed accountability and structure into an organization to drive consistent execution and results. And then I suppose the ability to lead and create an environment where people can perform at their very best and they continue to grow, because if your people are growing, then your organization is growing, I believe.
Absolutely. You talked about accountability, and I think about things like that, and I think to myself, as a leader, if you're not just the one who's carrying the can for the business, people need to understand that part of that leadership is saying, hey, look, when I make a mistake as a leader, I'm responsible for the consequence. Is that the same sort of culture that is reflected in the people that work inside the business as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You make it all right to make mistakes or and all of that sort of thing. So you set the tone as the leader. So everyone's looking to you to, as I said, for how you behave around here.
Mm. Yeah, it's one of those things where you can establish a culture, but have you ever worked within a business that they had a culture and you had to actually rework it, and how difficult was that for you?
Yeah, you know, as I said, leaders set the tone for what's going on in an organisation, and I think due to the complexity of all the stakeholder requirements today, for your customers, employees, investors, and even the communities in which your business operates, the days of being managed by a charismatic founder CEO are passing on. It requires a leadership team. So the first job of the top leader is to build a cohesive leadership team, an integrating group at the top, if you like, rather than an integrating individual. But I think many businesses are run by well-intentioned leadership teams who have good understanding of the details of their business, but they don't spend a lot of time thinking or clarifying why their organization exists or what the values are that should drive their behaviors and the behaviors of the people in the organization. And often as they talk about being strategic, but they can't articulate a clear, simple strategy, and they don't have, a way of evaluating how they make their decisions. So for me, in a cohesive leadership team, the members, they share a common passion for what they're committed to and abide by the kind of same set of values, and they have a clear plan for success. And also, I think that top leadership team also sets the level of trust that's around, and that gives permission for debate and constructive conflict, to challenge each other and making decisions and see what the real facts of a situation. So and if you're able to do that, and if there's a level of trust, that's when you can challenge each other and but also support each other at the same time. But I think in larger companies, what prevents a lot of that is politics, and probably in smaller growing companies, what prevents it is friendship. People are close together and can't really challenge each other on that sort of thing.
I think about mission, vision, values, and as a company gets to a certain threshold in terms of the number of employees, generally over revenue, I think to myself, how important does having a human resources department become, because it would become a little bit unwieldy for just a few to manage the entire business as it grows. So I guess we're starting to look into the scaling side of things. What are the processes behind that?
Well, you talk about vision, mission, purpose. For me, and scaling, when I talk about scaling, you'll start to talk about organizational development, and it starts with the vision, mission, values, those sorts of things, because they set the guiding principles as an organization. And if you as a leader or a leadership team can't be really clear about where you're going as an organization or what you stand for, how do you expect anyone else in your organization to do that? So often these things get passed as seen as an HR thing, that they're but for me, they're a leadership thing, not an HR thing. They're the things you've got to do as a leader in setting the standards for an organisation and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Do you practice the leadership by walking around in organisations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think, as I said earlier, I think you've always got that L on your forehead, but I think you've got to start by setting some of those things that start with vision, purpose, mission, and that, but also really clear priorities. What's your plan? What's the most important things around here right now, and who's doing what? who's accountable for getting what done, and those things, those start in the meeting room with the leadership team, and then that clarity is created, and then that's got to be spread around the organisation, and that's got to be spread through state of the company updates but being out there and talking and hearing and listening to what's going on in the organisation and unblocking what are the blockers for people getting their job done. What have they got the tools they need to do their job, and what things are getting in their way? Because as companies grow, there are some things that have just been taken for granted, and they're actually daft. They're just the way that things that have happened over time, that processes the way they are. And when you start speaking to people at the front line who are working with those processes day in out, you find things that are being done in the organisation that are just daft, and the leader's job is to unblock those and give people the tools and things that they can get on and do their job.
Yeah, that's great feedback for everybody who's listening to the show today. Shane, obviously, we focus on startup organisations and small to medium-sized existing businesses. That's wonderful feedback. I'd love to talk about your summit scale process, the 7 to 8 figure business growth model. Can you share that with us?
Yeah. So I suppose I start with what I call the barriers to growth. So I describe growing a business as a three-dimensional problem. The first dimension is those barriers of complexity. So as a business grows, it becomes more and more complex to run, and that complexity is due to more employees, more customers, more products, and so forth, and that complexity creates these barriers to growth. I suppose the first is around leadership, the ability or inability to grow or hire enough leaders throughout your organisation who have the ability to delegate, to make decisions, and to unblock those issues for people. The second is around systems, a lack of systems and structures to create consistency and communicate the decisions that are going on in an organisation. And then the third is around marketing, the lack of function to attract new relationships and also deal with the increased competitiveness that comes with growth. And then the kind of second dimension I talk about is those natural cycles of growth, that businesses don't grow in straight lines. They follow fairly predictable peaks and troughs, often to do with the numbers of employees than revenue, because that's what drives that complexity. And so the trick is to jump from one peak to another, if you like, without falling into the abyss. And then that third dimension is the counterintuitive market dynamics that are so, and what that really boils down to is the right approach at a certain stage of growth is probably likely to be the wrong approach at another stage of growth. So, for example, between startup and the first million or so, the focus really is on proving that a market exists for your services, and the key activity is selling. But as a company scales from 1 million to 10 million in revenue, the leadership tends to be focused, therefore, externally on finding new business. But this is the time when more internal focus is required to establish scalable systems and get the right organizational conditions for the longer term. And it's also, that has an impact on the financials. So the first, start up to 1 million, it's natural for the leaders to be focused on its sales and revenue. And then, but between 1 and 10 million, the leaders focus needs to be on that internal scaling and cash also, because growth sucks cash. And I learned this the hard way as a CEO of a business that grew from 8 million to 24 million in 9 months, that due to the impact of payment terms, I never want to be in that position again, where you're scrambling around to find the cash to you meet your payroll commitment. So you've got to be keeping such an eye on it. So Summit Scale, it's built on some timeless fundamentals for me around how you overcome these barriers to growth, and that a leadership team has to master 3 critical decision areas, I think. One around what I call vision around setting strategy, the ability to create organizational clarity. And you need clarity to achieve alignment. And that's the first thing. And then the second part of my scaling model is around momentum, around driving execution. And that involves continually getting the rest of the organization onto the same page, and also embedding that accountability and discipline and structures into the organization to enable that consistency. And then the third part is really around what I call condition, about ensuring that your people and your organization function effectively, about creating an environment where your people can perform and grow. And the first responsibility of a leadership team to ensure they're getting the very best from their workforce, and it's vital that leaders have the capability and the tools to make it happen. And often, I think this is a area, that I call it condition. You can call it health of an organisation, whatever. That I don't think leaders often give this enough time, energy, and attention. I think it's often because this is the stuff that's often seen as touchy-feely, or focuses on politics or morale and all that sort of thing. And it's easier to focus on, the classic fundamentals of strategy and marketing and technology and all those sorts of things. But I think it's an area where it requires a proportionate amount of time and energy of the leaders, and to make sure that the organisation is healthy.
Does it take a certain type of personality profile to be a leader? And as a human being, let's say I'm just about to hire 10 people. I've decided now's the time. I'm the owner and operator of the business. Do I need to change the way I behave in terms of who I am as a person, separating that from, our mission, vision, and values of the business?
Yes. Possibly. I don't. It depends how you behave. But I've always seen leadership as you're serving others, and often a great way of kind of explaining that, or really getting to grips with that, is turning your organizational chart upside down and seeing your frontline people as the top of the organization, the people that you're there, the serving. So you're the leader at the bottom. They're serving those. Your job is to make sure that those people that are working for you, those people that are serving your customers, or the people that are supporting them do that, have all the things that they need to do to do that. As a leader, you've got to set as I said, the direction, the goals, the priorities of what's important right now, the values of what's important, of how you behave around here. But your leader, as a leader, ultimately is therefore then to serve those people that are working for you, to make sure that they have everything they need to do their job properly.
Yeah, that's great feedback. I'm reading through some more information here, Shane, and I'm looking at the vector and pulse. Could you share a little bit about those with us? What do they mean?
Yeah, so vector is, I call the ability to course correct is important in an organisation. So as you go about, you're setting your goals and setting your plan, and as you go along, things change, and you have to have the ability to course correct and ensure you remain on track to your destination, your ultimate goal. And so one of the key areas is priority goal setting. So most organizations, I believe, have too many priorities to achieve the level of focus they need to succeed. And often that's kept in, well, that old adage of, if everything is important, nothing is. So one of the things I talk about is creating the 90-day world, rather than be overwhelmed by the big task, the monumental task of accomplishing your kind of big vision. 90-day priorities allow you to break it down into bite-sized chunk and focus on making it stick. Typically 3 to 5 most important priorities for your company over the next quarter. So that vector is about course correcting. There are other tools that we use around helping your organizations to problem solve, because often organizations get stuck, and because they don't have a simple problem solving model where they can put the hand up and say, we've got a problem now. Let's resolve it. And the other area that Pulse is for me about. If you want to embed the kind of communication tools and the processes and routines you need to create the clarity and align everyone in the organisation onto that same page in the same direction, which I believe is the absolute key to consistently driving execution and results. So one activity more than any other for me is, central to maintaining that long-term consistency in execution, and that's around meetings. So for me, I hear a lot today that meetings are bad and that meetings are a waste of time, and I just don't believe that. For me, you have to embed a rhythm of weekly, monthly, quarterly meetings into your business to bring focus and alignment and provide an opportunity to solve problems more quickly and ultimately save time. And that was one of the areas I think about getting leaders to run well-organized meetings, but build that rhythm into your organization, a discipline, if you like, of meetings, having a rhythm to them, and therefore setting the rhythm in your organization.
Yeah, that seems to come back to this idea of routine, which in turn flows into a systematic approach to the management of your business or organization, which in turn affects the culture.
Yes, absolutely. Routine and discipline they're a bit like Mark Zuckerberg and his idea of he had the same set of jeans and t-shirts. He just bought a whole lot of them, and he just wore the same sort of uniform each day, so they didn't have to think about what he was going to put on each day. And that's the same for organizations, of taking some of the confusion out of an organization by putting in those sorts of routines and disciplines and systems, because it enables you then to focus your energy, your thoughts on the things that need it.
Yeah, I often think about when I have this sort of conversation, I think about certified quality management systems using the ISO 9000 series, and that systematic approach is so critical for businesses that are scaling up. If you wanted to scale your business up, how long should you give yourself as an organisation? 2 years, 5 years? How long's a piece of string there?
Well, yeah, I think that's the question. How long is a piece of string? And often it depends, on the leadership team and where they're at, and how the journey that they have to go on to develop the capabilities and skills. And often, a scaling is about catching up, because you've got a great product at a great time, and you've got a great market to be in, but your organization is failing because you're not executing well, and what you're actually doing is scale to keep up with the growth. Sometimes it's slightly around the other way, where you're scaling to drive growth by by putting these routines and disciplines and getting really focused on your core market, your core customers, and doing the things that you do well and doing them much better to actually drive growth. So it's horses for courses. And some of my clients, I've seen them pick up these tools and run with them and embed them within 18 months. Others it takes it can take a few years.
So there you go, for everybody who's listening to the show today. It's all dependent on your current situation, your business, your model, your structure, the amount of people that you're working with. Shane, if people want to find you, to ask you questions, work with you, where would they find you?
I think the best place to go to is our website. We've got loads of free resources on there for people to try, from diagnostics to challenges to guides, that sort of thing. But that's www.summitleader.com.
That's fantastic. So again, look around the call. You will find the link somewhere on this page. Shane, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the My Future Business show with me today.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
It's been fun having you on the call with us today. Now click on that big red subscribe button and make sure you leave us a comment, share us with your friends, and join the growing list of leading entrepreneurs who have enjoyed their time on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for someone to create professional, evergreen webinar videos that get your audience to take actions you want them to take, then for more details, be sure to visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.